Hi there, my name's Irit Pollak and I am a social designer and storyteller. I'm here today to give you a few juicy tips on storytelling, to tell these tips through some hopefully useful examples, and to tell you a little bit about WADUP, which is the global storytelling project that I run with young people across the world. And what we do is we co-produce podcast episodes for first-time producers so that they can tell stories that matter to them in the way that they want to tell them. Okay, so stories. What is a story? A story is a sequence of events. Would help if I could, say the word. So a story is a sequence of events that happen over a period of time, and they transport you to that place or that moment that that person is talking about. And stories are part of our DNA. They are something that we have been doing for thousands and thousands of years, whether it's cave painting and telling stories of hunting, or whether it's telling mythological tales that help societies pass down information about what's right and what's wrong. Stories are full of metaphor. They're not necessarily literal, but they have to be felt. You got to feel that story. You've got to feel that you resonate with whatever that person is trying to tell you. So an example of how stories come into our everyday lives is, when you meet someone new and you might be on a date, you might be at work, you might be even just in the park, and you and that person start to relay, oh yeah, you remember this time that I went to this place and this thing happened and I felt this and this happened. This is a way for us to create some commonality between you and that other person. There's a lovely saying that I really like that goes, the shortest distance between two people is a story. And that's because you're creating something that two people can imagine themselves in. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of storytelling versus commentary. So one of the things that often gets misconstrued or misunderstood is what a story really is. And so I'll tell you this in through talking about how we started WADUP. So, commentary. I'd made podcasts for a while, and I got really sick of hearing podcasts that were created in the same kinds of ways, the same kind of this American lifestyle way, where you've got, a charismatic host that interviews different people about different things. I got sick of hearing the same kinds of people, tend to be American, tend to be Western people, kind of taking up the airways, and I got bored of listening to podcasts myself. So I started to meet some of these some young people when I moved from Sydney to London, and I was volunteering at Refugee Youth. I met some really great young people, and I thought, my God, why is it that these young people aren't the ones that are the ones we're listening to? These young people that I met was through an organisation called Refugee Youth. They'd all come to the UK as unaccompanied minors. They're all brilliant. And I thought, well, what if I started an organisation that allowed young people, not just refugees, but young people everywhere, to tell the stories that matter to them? Cut. Okay, so let's rewind. So the story side to that is, so it's a Friday night. I've been volunteering at an organisation in central London called Refugee Youth, which brings together young people who have come to seek asylum in the UK, and basically runs cooking and arts and music stuff, and kind of creates community for people. So anyway, I'm there, it's Friday night, everyone's a bit tired, it's been a long week. You walk in, there's this huge church hall. It's not a religious thing, but it's just that that's the free space they have. So you walk in, it's really echoey, there's trap music blaring in the background, there are all of these incredible young people from Eritrea, Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam even, all kind of hanging out, meeting each other. We played this game that was called the name game, where you repeat each other's names across the room and everyone has to try and remember who's who. And so over weeks and months of me going and hanging out with young people on Friday nights through Refugee Youth, I got to know people. And one Friday night I was standing in the kitchen helping prepare a dinner, and this young man from Iraq, he just pulled his phone out of his pocket and held it up and started videoing the chicken soup that we were making. I think chicken soup, chicken stew, and it was bubbling away and you could smell, it was so, you know, that lovely kind of rich smell of like rice and chicken. And then he started to Facebook live stream what we were doing and started to talk in Arabic and English, and I thought, like, why is it that we don't hear about young men like this? Why is it that we don't hear what they want to say? And that whenever we hear about a young person from Iraq, potentially, that is a refugee, you don't hear about them making food, telling stories, you know, being at the forefront of technology. You hear a very different story. So I kind of took a step back and thought, what if I ran something with young people from Refugee Youth? And that was the beginning of WADUP. So, these are two stories that I've told you off the cuff. Haven't prepared, full disclosure. But can you see the difference? One is how I felt, how I saw things, in opinions, you know. I thought it wasn't good enough that there were podcasts that weren't made from a certain, you know, that weren't made in a kind of more diverse voices. It was just about my opinions and thoughts and the string of those happening. The second one, what I hoped happened was, did you come with me? Did you see the haul? Did you see the chicken soup? Or, you know, did you see the young man holding up his phone? When you start to visualize, that's when you're really telling a story well. If you didn't visualize, that's probably on me. So the difference is, and this is where your work comes into play. So when you're trying to tell the story of why you started your social enterprise, or why, you know, you're doing what you're doing, start with taking people to where it, you know, to a moment. Start with, rather than talking about the big picture, because the big picture is important and the stats are important too. However, if you really want people to feel something, you got to take them to a moment. And I guess, so one of the tips that I would give you is, don't think about it as you have to tell the whole big story. Zoom in on a moment. And, you know, that time, the moment that, you know, I described in the kitchen, that was a very small moment. That was a microsecond, you know, but it was when it kind of crystallized for me. So what is that moment for you? There could be many of them. And then the second tip I've got for you is, tell your story. Sorry, it's windy outside and it's blowing on the glass. So if you can hear that, apologies. So if you tell your story to your mum, your friend, whoever, verbally, say it, don't write it down. So tell them the story and get them to replay it back to you. If they don't get what you're saying, if they are missing the main point, this story is not working. If they get the points, if they get the message and they replay it back to you and they get all of those main milestones in the story, great, brilliant. And if they don't, then that gives you something to work with. And the third point is, don't worry so much about writing it down. So sometimes when we write, we worry about being perfect. We spend a long time writing and we read in our head. The way that we read a book, right? If you love reading fiction like I do, that is written in a very different way to speaking, to how we talk. We talk in much shorter sentences. And also everyone talks in a different way. So I would say work your story through talking it out. And then it's easy to just change stuff, chuck it out, chop and change, go with what feels right. And that way it becomes less of an essay and more of something that you enjoy refining and then using in pitches or recording in on your website or wherever you want to use it. And honestly, using it in conversation, really powerful. Okay, hope that was useful. Thanks.